It's one of the most highly anticipated horror movies of the year and a very long overdue sequel to The Shining. Doctor Sleep finally has arrived. So let's dig in. I gotta let you know up front, it's gonna be a spoiler-filled review, so if you haven't seen it, go check it out. Alright, you're here. So, let's make sure we're on the same page. Picks up few, 20, 30 years after Shining. Danny Torrance is all grown up and messed up and a roaring alcoholic. Settles in some little tiny town, and then he basically gets embroiled with a bunch of other people that have the Shining that are evil, and this girl that's, like, good, for lack of a better word. So we start off with likes, and I gotta say, revisiting The Shining is actually, it's a treat. I mean, you know, to see the Overlook Hotel, even down to the point where, you know, and obviously Flanagan's a big horror guy, but, you know, when Ewan McGregor and Abra, you know, are going to the Overlook, it's the exact same shot as the opening of The Shining, and you know, you know, the sound really. They use that brilliant, you know, soundtrack from The Shining, and it hits you like as soon as it kicks on. So I absolutely love that. I love the fact that they did not pull any punches. Thank you, finally. You know, they showed the full frontal naked old witch woman, you know, from the bathtub. They, you know, showed a kid getting, you know, his chest cut open. I mean, not graphically or anything else, but again, they didn't shy away from it. You know, they didn't pull any punches. This was not your PG-13 horror crap, so I was really, really happy about that. And, you know, and then when I did the trailer reactions, my biggest concern, which I think I mentioned, is that, you know, and it's kind of a golden rule in all the writing, but if you establish characters that have superhuman powers, say, which is basically what The Shining is, to be honest, it's something special. It's something different. It sets it apart. As soon as everybody has superpowers, then it becomes boring. And my concern was that they were going to introduce like a ton of people that had The Shining, and in fact, it was just a small little group, and they focused on them, and they weren't indestructible or anything else, and so that was cool. I was very, very happy that they didn't go down, you know, that route. All right, it is dislikes time, and buckle up, folks. Number one, big, huge, colossal, epic problem. The Mary Sue character of Abdra, whatever the hell her name was. Absolutely ridiculous, insultingly bad. I did not read the book. If Stephen King actually did this, then I guess he was years ahead of his time. I just don't see him doing that, because it's this thing, you know, in modern cinema, a lot of writers have forgotten that the core concept of storytelling is the hero's journey. It's what is relatable to every human being on the planet. It is what is desired by every human being on the planet, and because some people are so bitter, they instead now write these Mary Sue characters where they instantly have all powers and all abilities without any training, effort, or anything whatsoever, and this is exactly what this chick was. It was insultingly bad, insultingly terrible. At no point did you ever feel that she was in danger. At no point did you ever feel that she struggled. Absolutely terrible. Speaking of writing and stories that human beings relate to, here's an idea. Guess what? Since the dawn of humanity, and still going today, despite what young writers will tell you, Humans like stories where the hero defeats the villain. Pretty simple concept, right? Well, in this movie, the hero didn't defeat the villain, right? So they lure Rose to the Overlook Hotel, and the ghosts of the Overlook Hotel essentially are the ones that kill her. Adra, the supposed hero of this is the Mary Sue character. Somehow she didn't get in on that action. Go figure. And then even Danny Torrance, Ewan McGregor's character, he didn't kill her. You know? You gotta be kidding me. You know? Just ridiculous. Just absolutely ridiculous on every level. And then, I gotta tell you, the recreation of young Danny and, Shelley Duvall's character and Jack Nicholson was atrocious. The kid, I guess, was close, except in some angles. Shelley Duvall was way off. I mean, no one looks like Shelley Duvall, let's be fair. The Nicholson was incredibly bad. And I say that because it was supposed to be one of the more impactful moments in the movie. Danny Torrance finally facing down the alcoholism inherited from his father, who was also an alcoholic. And they put in a Jack Nicholson lookalike of the lowest grade. Now, I don't care what the budget was for this. It wasn't cheap. Hello, Rogue One. We had a brilliant, perfect Peter Cushing. I don't care what anyone says. Why wouldn't you do that with this movie? If they had actually had a digital Jack Nicholson that looked exactly like he did in The Shining, people would have lost it. It would have been amazing. The scene would have had impact. Instead, you're ripped out of your willing suspension of disbelief by simply going, that doesn't really look like Jack Nicholson. And, the scenes with young Danny and Shelley Duvall didn't really add a lot. You could have left those out because those also ripped me out of the narrative. The scene with him and his dad, portraying the bartender from The Shining, needed to be in there. It did. But it needed to be Jack Nicholson. And not a second-rate impersonator. Just absolutely just insultingly bad. I just remembered another big dislike, and I'm sorry. I know there's a little bit of a cut here. I'll get to Pinheads in just a second. But what this movie showed more than anything else is the jarring difference between the amazing filmmaking of Stanley Kubrick and The Shining and the horror of today. This was, for lack of a better word, almost sort of I want to call it almost like a horror action movie. Not action with like guns and explosions and everything else, but action in like CGI sequences and fighting off, things, but nothing really scary, no subtlety, no psychology. The blueprints of the damn hotel suddenly made sense. In this one, it didn't make sense in The Shining because that helped in throwing off your sense of, wait a minute, something's not right here. That's psychology, that's great, phenomenal filmmaking. That's super great. And I know it isn't fair to compare Stanley Kubrick to Mike Flanagan. Not to take anything away from Flanagan, although Ouija, Origin of Evil, come on. No. The point really is that in the writing, it just is not the same. And this movie really illustrates that when you look at how amazing and multi-layered and contextual and timeless The Shining is to this, which is just 1 inch in front of your face, watch it once, and never again. All right, it is Pinhead time, and I gotta say, I do like a lot about this movie, just despite what I said, and honestly, I guess I have to admit to myself, what I like is that it reminded me of The Shining, but the dislikes, and at the very least, the Mary Sue, just does tremendous damage to this film. So, at best, honestly, the negatives are so huge, I'm going to have to go, and this is being generous, trust me, 2.5 2.5 pinheads. All right, it's going to be a lot of controversy. I can sense it, and that's fine. In the comments section, let's get the controversy going. However, make sure you let us know if you've seen the original. I suspect for some of the younger fans that haven't seen the original, they'll probably think that this is pretty cool, but it's not. And you really need to see Stanley Kubrick's The Shining.